By the time Justin let go of Duke, he had pulled out 5 or 6 of his teeth, which were now lying on the ground. Duke had lost all his bravado and was now terrified of Justin. He jumped up from the ground and ran toward Angelina with his tail between his legs. "Get out of my way!" Angelina shouted and rushed over to her dog. She had wanted to rush over and save him when Justin had been pulling Duke's teeth out, but Lee had stopped her. Now, she pushed him away and squatted down to look at Duke, whose head was starting to swell from being hit. When she opened his mouth, she could see that it was filled with blood and that a few of his teeth were missing. "Justin!" Angelina had raised Duke. She loved him and was furious with Justin when she saw what he had done. "Look what you've done!" she shouted at him as he walked toward her. He wanted to settle things with Angelina, but before he could say anything, she screamed at him. Angelina rushed toward Justin, waving her fists at him. "Just get lost." "Woof, woof." Duke saw that his mistress was hurt, so he barked twice. Justin looked at him, and Duke shut his mouth obediently, putting his head down submissively. "One look at this smelly dog and I can tell that its mistress is not a good person." Justin cursed at Angelina and was about to kick her. Angelina glared at him and said in a high-pitched voice, "Justin, you mustn't kick me." "Really? Why not?" Justin was still angry, but he was starting to calm down. He was no longer as hot-headed and was so interested to hear why Angelina thought he shouldn't hit her. "Because I'm pregnant." Angelina stood up from the ground. Hearing her words, Lee was stupefied. He had been using protective measures all along, so how could Angelina be pregnant? He sputtered, "Angelina, you..." "Tut-tut," Justin didn't care. "So what if you're pregnant?" he replied. He had never been a merciful person. "Justin, you still want to hurt me? Then you need to know that the child I'm carrying isn't Lee's. It's the child of Guy Avery, Sir Fred Avery's son." When she said this, everyone gasped in shock. "Whoa, Angelina's having another man's baby. What a..." one man said in disgust. Another replied, "Guy and Chuck Avery are the sons of Sir Fred Avery, one of the richest men in the world. I don't understand how Angelina managed to meet them." His friend agreed. "I knew it must be someone powerful if they dared to cheat with Lee Dempsey's girlfriend. I couldn't think of anyone powerful enough in Chicago, but it turns out to be young Guy Avery. Lee has no power at all compared to him." The chatter continued. "I've heard that last month, Guy Avery spent a week in Hollywood. He's friends with one of the great directors, I think Clint Eastwood. He stayed there for a week, and apparently during that time, more than 10 female Hollywood celebrities were seen going in and out of his hotel room. No one knows what they were doing." "Angelina, you..." Lee stuttered. His face was red and his voice was angry. His eyes were slightly trembling. Angelina glared at him and came straight to the point. She said calmly, "Well, my plan was to be tactful and let you down gently. But today you were such a... Justin, I realize that you clearly can't protect me. So why should I care about not embarrassing you? It's over." Lee raised his hand angrily. Angelina egged him on. "Go on then. Try touching me." Lee clenched his fists, but after a moment, thought better of it and lowered them. He knew that his family was no match for the Averys. Plus, Angelina was already pregnant with Guy Avery's child, so he absolutely couldn't touch her. "I knew it." Angelina proudly glared at Lee, then looked at Justin. She said, "Justin, I've investigated your family. Although the Ambrose family is very famous in New York and among the whole country's upper-class society, as far as I know, your family's warrior enterprises can't compare to the Dempsey family business. What I don't understand is, why is your reputation so much greater than Lee's?" Justin's branch of the family was only involved with a few of the Ambrose family business enterprise, but it was clear why his family was so prestigious. Famous people like Ken Stokes were involved in the enterprise, running the East Coast division of the company. Ken had a huge influence in New York. As long as the Ambrose business enterprises had such well-respected and influential people working for them, the kudos would always rub off on Justin's side of the family too. Angelina asked, Is it that your family are poor relations of the Ambrose family, but you've managed to build them into something respectable on social media? She had heard that this was quite common now. There were plenty of examples of hoodlums from the ghettos in Chicago who had used social media to talk themselves into riches and respectability. Some were even starting charities to build their own reputations and become famous. Angelina continued, I think your family's just like that. In reality, you have no power or wealth, so what gives you the right to look down on me? The more she spoke, the more she knew she was right. And now she had Guy Avery supporting her. She had nothing to fear from Justin. I know I'm right, she said, but I really can't recall what kind of business is Warrior Enterprises? At least Lee has his own restaurant chain with delicious food and his live broadcast channels. Justin, you just seem to party and chase women. Onlookers heard what Angelina was saying and voiced their own opinions. One said, Damn, I think Angelina's right. In fact, I'm not even sure that Warrior Enterprises is that successful. In fact, I don't think it's even ranked in the top 10 companies in Chicago. Do you think Justin is afraid of Guy Avery? Asked his wife. He replied knowledgeably, One is a mouse and the other is the son of the richest man in America. If Guy Avery wants to harm Justin, I can't see anything stopping him. All their friends agreed. Angelina continued arrogantly, Justin, I know I'm right. And remember what you did. You actually pulled out Duke's teeth. If you don't want Guy to know about this, then kneel down and apologize to me immediately. Feeling that Guy would support her, she felt very confident. Justin smiled and slowly bent down. In a sarcastic voice, he said, Oh, of course. Let me kneel down and apologize to you. Sure, no problem. Angelina laughed abruptly. Huff, you still want to fight with me? Go on, kneel down in front of me right now. She was waiting for a response from Justin, when all of a sudden, Angelina felt the world spinning around her. She realized that she was being carried on Justin's shoulder. Put me down, she shouted. The corner of Justin's mouth hooked up into a carefree smile. He spun on the spot and whirled Angelina around. She was screaming as she started feeling dizzy and shaken. Finally, Justin stopped. Angelina continued to shout, Justin, put me down. I'm going to tell Guy all about this. You're in so much trouble. If you want to sue me, go ahead, Justin replied. He wasn't worried about Guy Avery at all. As he spoke, he raised Angelina high up in the air with his two thick arms. Justin, what are you doing? I'm warning you. Remember, I'm still carrying Guy Avery's child. If anything happens to me, he'll kill you, Angelina was shouting. Justin decided that he was wasting his time with these people. He wanted to get to the hospital, but first, he needed to make sure that no one else was going to try to frame Debbie for anything. At this moment, Rita and Janice walked up to him. They were very worried about Debbie's safety. Rita said, Justin, I'm Debbie's friend. Janice said, I'm Debbie's manager. We want to go with you to the hospital to see her. Okay, Justin agreed. Then, seeing that Katie, Olivia, Melissa, and Rita were all wearing the same costumes, he asked Rita, Did they want to go too? She nodded. Katie, Olivia, and Melissa were pale with anxiety. They lowered their heads and hardly dared to breathe. They were afraid that Rita would say something about how they had bullied Debbie. Okay, we'll go together. Justin glared at Melissa. He thought, Damn, this was the girl that framed Debbie. But I've already punished her. They took 2 cars to the Chicago General Hospital. When they got there, they spoke to Debbie's doctor, who told them that she had received painkillers and she was no longer in pain. Her bite wounds had been bandaged, and she had been given a rabies vaccination. Fortunately, her injuries were all minor. She hadn't been as badly injured as Justin had feared. She had also been given a sedative and she was sleeping. Justin and the others sat with her quietly for 10 minutes before being told to leave by Justin. He then sat beside her bed, quietly waiting for her to wake up. The next morning, when Debbie slowly opened her eyes, she was still in a bit of a daze. She wondered, Am I dead? Then she noticed a man sleeping in a chair beside her bed. A few minutes later, Justin woke up. Seeing that she had woken up, he became excited. Debbie, you're awake. That's wonderful. How are you feeling? Justin? Debbie was a little confused. She didn't know why he was here. Yes, it's me, he replied. Then he told her about how he had gone to the talent show the previous day and how she had been bitten by the dog. He continued, Debbie, don't worry. Last night I beat up everyone who bullied you. As for your teammate Melissa, that girl really deserves to die. Debbie nodded slightly. Her heart was filled with gratitude toward Justin. If it wasn't for him, she was sure she would be dead. A few minutes later, a beautiful girl walked into the room and said, Hello, Debbie. Then she turned to Justin and said, Justin, the helicopter has arrived. We should fly to Washington now if we want to get there on time. Justin was supposed to attend a music contest in Washington that day. He had invited more than 10 popular singers from the entertainment industry to perform. He had already arranged to meet one of the female singers in a hotel room in Washington. And if they were late, they might forfeit their chances of winning. It was imperative that they get there on time. You fly out there now. I need to stay in Chicago with Debbie. Although he said that he would stay, he wasn't completely sure that it was the right decision. The singer he had arranged to meet was a real stunner. Debbie looked at him. You should go, she said with a smile. It was clear to her that Justin wanted to go. But nothing, she said assuredly. I feel fine now. I'm not in pain. I just have a few small wounds from a dog's bite. It's nothing serious. Okay. You rest well in the hospital. Why don't you call Alex and get him to come to Chicago to keep you company? And when you see him, give him a piece of my mind for not being here for you. His words made Debbie laugh. Justin stood up and walked outside. He spotted Melissa and shouted at her, Take good care of her. If anything happens to her, I will blame you. Do you hear me? I heard you. Melissa replied timidly. Then Justin said goodbye to Debbie and left.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.